Top news for today, October 19, 2020. Returning OFWs now allowed to travel back to their provinces. Metro Manila Council raises the age-based restrictions to 18 years old up to 65 years old. 71% of Filipinos approve of the government's COVID-19 response. And let's take a look at Camiguin's TikTok and vlogs for their Lanzones Festival. Good day, I'm Rom Dulfo. Welcome to PNA Newsroom. Our top story for today, Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque announced some policies being implemented according to the rules of the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases. He says the IATF is now allowing minors and seniors to go out, but subject to the restrictions being imposed by their respective local government units.
In-adjust po ang age-based stay-at-home restrictions. Pinayagan ng lumabas ang mga nasa edad 15 hanggang 65, no? Ngunit maaring magbigay ng mas mataas na age limit for minors ang mga lokal na pamahalaan depende sa COVID-19 sitwasyon sa kanilang mga nasasakupan.
Meanwhile, all returning or repatriated OFWs and other overseas Filipinos are now considered authorized persons outside the residence or APOR, meaning they are now allowed to travel and return to their places of residence. Other persons may also be allowed provided they undergo the 14-day mandatory quarantine and will be transported through government efforts.
Paano naman po ang mga non-APOR, authorized persons outside of residence, no? Ang interzonal movement at intrazonal movement ay pinapayagan sa mga lugar na nasa GCQ at MGCQ subject sa regulasyon ng lokal na pamahalaan o sa kaso ng Isla ng Boracay subject sa regulasyon ng Boracay Interagency Task Force. Kaya nga po ang sabi ni Task Force COVID Shield General Eliazar, makipag-ugnayan po sa LGU na kanyang pupuntahan kung ano ang mga requirements.
Meanwhile, MMDA General Manager Jojo Garcia announced some recommendations by the Metro Manila Council. Among these include imposing curfew from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m., higher age-based restrictions, which is 18 to 65 years old, and 30% capacity on churches.
Kagabi po, nagkaroon kami ng pagpupulong ng ating mga mayors po. Kompleto po yung 17 mayors natin ng Metro Manila. Papasalamat kami kay Secretary Tugade at kay Chairman Degro po at nadinig po yung mga suggestion ng ating mga mayors at ayusin po nila ang public transportation sa NCR ito pong week na to. After po, nagkaroon kami ng pagpupulong sa IATF secretaries po at nagbigay po ng mga suggestions ang ating mga mayors. Unang-una po, in-adjust na natin yung curfew ng 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. At ito po ay mangyayari itong linggong to dahil ayusin pa po yung mga ordinance sa EO ng ating mga mayors. Pero expect po within the week, 12 to 4 na po ang ating curfew except na votas. No? Ang navotas po is 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. Dahil maintindihan pa po natin si Mayor Toby na ang navotas po yan yung dulo ng Metro Manila at mas more po sila na mga residential. Yung mga industrial sites naman nila, allow naman ang upward dyan na magtrabaho. Ang second po na pag-usapan ay yung mga upward po, yung sa age bracket po. At ang sabi naman po, gradual naman ang pag-increase ng mga lalabas. So ang in-approve po so far ng ating NCR mayors is from 18 to 65 ang Metro Manila po. Yung 15 to 65 po, ito po yung sa buong Pilipinas na MGCQ pa. Alam naman po natin ang Metro Manila nasa GCQ pa rin. Kaya gradual na lang po yung increase. At pangatlo po, nung tukol po sa attendance sa simbahan, nag-suggest po ang ating mga mayors unanimously, 17-0 po ang score dyan, napayagan na rin ang 30% capacity sa mga simbahan po. Pero of course, approval pa rin po ng IATF yan. Yung sa amin po, recommendation lang. Ang naging reason po ng mga mayors natin, yung psychological, moral issues po ng ating mga kababayan, kailangan na po ng tulong na face-to-face, na makapag-iba po.
More commuters are now accommodated in NCR trains as the government orders an increase in the maximum passenger capacity starting today. According to the Department of Transportation, the Philippine National Railway Metro Rail Transit Line 3 or MRT3 and the Lines 1 and 2 of the LRT increased their respective minimum passenger capacities from 18% to 30%. It will then be gradually expanded up to 50% capacity. The MRT3 earlier increased its train speed to 40 kilometers per hour. For its part, the PNR is also implementing an increase to 30% in the capacity of each of the rail line's train models. More Filipinos agree the government's response against the COVID-19 pandemic is adequate. According to the latest SWS survey, 71% of the Filipinos said the government actions to inform the public on how to fight COVID-19 are adequate, with 34% of them answered very adequate. 22% found the government's actions inadequate, while only 6% are undecided.
7 sa 10 Pilipino or 71% ang nagsabi na may sapat na aksyon ng pamahalaan pagdating sa pagbibigay ng impormasyon sa publiko kung paano labanan ang COVID-19. Kaugnay nito, nagpapasalamat po kami sa inyo at ang ITF ay nagpapasalamat din po. No? Ito ay isang pagkilala sa amin na mabigyan kayo ng tama at napapanahon na impormasyon tungkol sa paglaban sa coronavirus.
The Health Department stressed the importance of being mentally healthy amid the so-called quarantine fatigue. Quarantine fatigue is defined as exhaustion from the restrictive lifestyle being adopted to minimize or contain the spread of COVID-19.
Ito yung mga after mong makarecover, you still experience itong mga symptoms. And most common symptoms that people would feel would be yung constant headache, yung nawawalan sila ng, nahirapan sila matulog. Meron po na nagkakaroon din ng mga chest pains, especially for those 50 years old and above. Meron po yung parang feeling nila pagod na pagod sila. Tapos yung iba, yung loss of taste and loss of smell, matagal po bumalik ang kanilang pang-amoy at saka panglasa. Pinag-aaralan ho natin to sa ngayon, kinokolekta natin yung mga information at saka mga individuals who are experiencing this kind of symptoms para mailagay natin sa isang study, para magkaroon din ng ebidensya dito sa atin sa Pilipinas.
The Health Department reports show that there are about 3.6 million Filipinos who are suffering from mental health issues. Some worry that they might become infected with COVID-19, while others are anxious over work issues. DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara says it is important to remain socially connected, especially at this time, by calling friends and loved ones and finding a hobby or other recreational activity. The DOH also offers free online psychosocial support sessions for essential workers, as well as free psychiatric consultation through the National Center for Mental Health. Beginning Thursday, Baguio City will start accepting tourists from Luzon, particularly from the National Capital Region and Regions 2 and 3. The reopening aims to spur a swifter recovery of the city. Almost 7 months since the first lockdown was imposed in the country, the Department of Tourism said Baguio has improved its capacity in terms of critical health care and isolation centers, the addition of newly trained contact tracers, and the creation of a new triage center for tourists at the CAP Convention Center. The pilot study for antigen testing is also now in its final stages, which may pave the way for the use to screen potential visitors. Requirements for tourists, meanwhile, will be relaxed through the Baguio Visitor Information and Travel Assistance or VISITA, which has received an encouraging number of 2,000 registrations and some 200 travel requests since it officially launched on September 22. Booking itineraries through a DOT-accredited tour agency is now optional, but guests are still required to book in an accredited accommodation establishment issued with a certificate of authority to operate. Minor offenses are now punishable by community service. These are offenses punishable with arresto minor or imprisonment of up to 30 days or arresto mayor with up to 6 months behind bars. Senator Richard Gordon lauded the Supreme Court's approval of the guidelines as stated in Republic Act 11362 or the Community Service Act. Gordon, chairman of the Senate Committee on Justice and Human Rights and author of the law, said it promotes restorative justice and jail decongestion. Those who will commit minor offenses will also have to undergo rehabilitative counseling by a social welfare officer. The Supreme Court approved the guidelines for RA 11362 on October 6 and shall take effect on November 2 after the required publication. Still to come, let us take a look at how our kababayans commemorate the dead amid the pandemic. And more farmers benefit from government's financial aid. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
As the government ordered the closure of resting places for the annual Undas commemoration, Filipinos, at least for this year, would now have to improvise so that they can pay their respects to their departed loved ones. Let us take a look at how the Filipinos honor the dead.
Filipinos commemorate All Saints' Day or Undas with great reverence for their dearly departed, and this deep show of respect is not changing this year, save for a few differences. This year, the Interagency Task Force ordered the closing of all private and public cemeteries, memorial parks, and columbariums in the country from October 29 to November 4. This is to ensure the safety of everyone amid the coronavirus pandemic. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the public could visit these places from September 17 to October 28 and from November 5 to November 15 with a maximum venue capacity of 30%. Those who manage to visit their dead relatives say they keep in mind to practice physical distancing and other health protocols given the urgency of the COVID-19 pandemic. Even grave caretakers are urged to take care of themselves amid the pandemic. And in times like this, during the new normal, modern technology comes to the rescue. But for some families, the ultimately best way to observe All Saints' Day is to pray for their departed at the safest place possible, at home. Meanwhile, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines or CBCP is urging the public to send prayer requests for their departed loved ones via Undas website. There will also be live online masses as well as audio and video reflection and catechesis on All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Lyd Cabagan.
In Bataan, All Saints' Day or Undas is celebrated ahead of time and visit to the cemeteries is scheduled per barangay. The municipal government of SAMAR under Mayor Aida Macalinao has implemented the visit by schedule in compliance with the IATF protocol. At the Iglesia Filipina Independiente Cemetery in Barangay Santa Lucia, village watchmen were posted on Saturday at the entrance, ensuring that all incoming persons have their names, addresses, and contact numbers listed on logbooks. After registering, visitors have to sanitize their hands with alcohol and are required to wear face masks and face shields before entering the Aglipayan Cemetery. The Department of Agriculture will grant qualified farmer and fisherfolk cooperatives as well as community-based organizations in Central Luzon with needed capital to continue operations amid the pandemic. The move is under the DA's enhanced Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita Inclusive Food Supply Chain program. The Kadiwa project is part of DA's efforts in ensuring affordable and available food for all by directly linking suppliers to consumers and bringing their produce to communities. The first to benefit from the program in the region is the South Nueva Ecija Seed Growers Multipurpose Cooperative, which will be receiving 1 million pesos. At least 15 more cooperatives in Nueva Ecija, Bataan, Bulacan, Pampanga, and Zambales will receive grants ranging from 500,000 to 3 million pesos as working capital. Meanwhile, the provincial government of Nueva Ecija is putting up a warehouse with recirculating dryers to help farmers ensure that their products are of good quality. The recirculating dryer has the capacity to dry palay up to 3,000 kavans per day. With the support of the DA, the ongoing projects are simultaneously being built in the towns of Peñaranda, Coyapo, Guimba, Talavera, Pantabangan, Rizal, Santa Rosa, and San Antonio. Provincial Engineering Office Chief Nestor Sarangaya says the projects are meant to help farmers to dry and store their products until they are marketed to the Nueva Ecija Provincial Food Council, NFA, or private traders. The Education Department says it strives hard to inculcate mental health awareness amid the pandemic to students, parents, and teachers. This, as it said, it is unfair to blame the DepEd for the suicide of 3 students who allegedly had difficulties in answering their self-learning modules. DepEd 7 Regional Director Salustiano Jimenez said, while they respect the findings of the police and the opinions of the parents, there may be some other factors that pushed those youngsters to commit suicide. Jimenez says guidance of the parents is critical now that the educational system has been forced to modify the learning delivery due to the pandemic. DepEd 7 Chief was reacting to the report that 3 students from Alcoy Town and Toledo City in Cebu and Gihulngan City in Negros Oriental recently committed suicide because they couldn't answer their school modules. Meanwhile, the provincial government of Eastern Samar has hired more teachers to assist children's learning at home. Some 1,300 teacher facilitators will serve as tutors for pupils and students to better understand the learning materials and will likewise assist teachers in the distribution of modules. The 3-month stint of the teacher facilitators will earn them experience credits they would need when they apply for a regular teaching position. Governor Ben Evardone says the initiative is their way of supporting the DepEd's Learning Continuity Program. LEYTE's market along Commonwealth Avenue in Quezon City now accepts digital or cashless payments as vendors upgrade their systems for more convenient transactions. Almost 200 vendors in Quezon City's biggest wet market are using Discartec, an app of the Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation or RCBC, which was launched last July. RCBC Executive Vice President Lito Villanueva says workers in the public market, wet market are among the 70% unbanked and underserved sectors in the Philippines. A Discartec user can earn 3.25% interest per annum on savings in the app. The digital bank also does not require a maintaining balance, unlike a regular bank account. Other services include bills payment, prepaid smartphone loading, money transfers, insurance, telemedicine, and more. The DSWD also tapped the Discartec app to aid in the second tranche of the distribution of the government's Social Amelioration Program, or SAP. Up next, AFP says Reds are hallucinating on attack threats. Now let us take a look at Camigin's TikTok and vlogs for their Lanzones Festival. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
A scientist from the United Kingdom says more than one coronavirus vaccine will be available at the start of 2021. Sir Jeremy Farrar of the government's Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies praised the efforts of the UK's vaccine task force. Farrar said Britain has access to a number of different vaccines across a range of different approaches, which will come through in the first quarter of the next year. The latest government data shows nearly 17,000 more people tested positive for COVID-19 across the UK over the past 24 hours. The UK counts at least 722,000 testing positive, with over 43,000 dead. A ranking military official says the Communist Party of the Philippines, or CPP, must be hallucinating when it called upon the New People's Army, or NPA, to intensify its attacks against government forces. AFP spokesperson Edgar Arevalo says the military is puzzled by the communist rebels' boldness, considering the massive losses they suffered in the past months. He said the CPP-NPA has always been trying to defeat security troops but has failed every time, except when they attack unarmed personnel who were providing services to fellow Filipinos. He also said the communist terrorists claim that the Filipino people is calling for justice when it is the Filipinos, including the indigenous peoples, whom they take advantage of, who have rejected them. Meanwhile, Arevalo says the fight against terrorism must also focus on preventing the menace from invading communities and cities. He made a statement as the country observed the 3rd anniversary of the liberation of Marawi City on October 17. Task Force Bangon Marawi has rolled out various infrastructure projects and other assistance inside the 24 barangays hard hit during the 5-month-long siege in Marawi City. TFBM Chairperson Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario on Sunday said the rehabilitation of the war-torn city includes infrastructure development and non-infrastructure intervention. He adds, non-infrastructure intervention covers the recovery efforts for residents affected by the conflict, particularly for social services, education, and health. The reconstruction of several mosques destroyed during the siege has also commenced. Meantime, the construction of permanent housing for residents is set to be completed by December 2021. The government is also set to fully restore the electric and water system in the 24 barangays most affected areas. Del Rosario reiterates the government would complete the rehabilitation of Marawi City by December next year. The provincial government of Leyte calls on everyone to remember the sacrifices of World War II soldiers even amid the pandemic as it celebrates the anniversary of the Leyte Gulf landing on October 20. Sol ALARCON with the news.
The provincial government of Leyte will commemorate the 76th Leyte Gulf landings anniversary on October 20 this year in a simple way despite COVID-19 pandemic. This is to give honor and salute to World War II veterans.
Mag-playing tayo, we'll raise the flags ng mga allies and then do the taps. Then most of the na lang natin is mga online na lang na mga live streaming na lang ang iba. Yung mga messages, very simple.
According to Leyte Governor Leopoldo Domenico Pitilla, we cannot do away with the commemoration despite of the pandemic since the veterans played important roles during World War II. The governor has called on all Leyteños not to go to MacArthur Shrine and Memorial Park on that day because all activities will be seen live on TV and other media platforms.
I would like to ask the people, ang mga tao na kung pwede sa October 20, huwag kayo pupunta sa park kasi i-lockdown ng park. Ipapadabas naman natin yun sa social media.
For the PNA Newsroom, Sol ALARCON, Philippine Information Agency, Region 8.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, is pushing through with its environmental protection campaign amid the new normal. The DENR is accepting entries for the Mga Kwentong Klima Likasan, a photoblog competition for 15 to 21-year-old Filipinos nationwide. Interested parties can send entries with a maximum of 3 photos as well as their entry forms via email until November 15. The entries must show individual and community behavior changes that help create a healthy environment and boost the fight against climate change. Among the changes being pushed by the DENR are riding bikes instead of cars and composting leaves to prevent the increase in greenhouse gases. The DENR is also tapping students of PUP in Manila to act as environment and natural resource ambassadors. The DENR and PUP signed a memorandum of agreement for the ENR Ambassador Project. Qualified students will be chosen to become advocates of the protection in the environment in Metro Manila, including Manila Bay. DENR Secretary Roy Simato turned over 100 units of tablet computers to PUP Executive Vice President Alberto Guilio to be used by the selected students. Simato cited the need for the assistance of the education sector to help teach environmental protection to the students and the youth. Camiguin is celebrating its yearly Lanzones Festival, but the grand festivity is mostly happening online. The province is using online platforms such as TikTok and video web blogging to mark the celebration of its 41st Lanzones Festival. The festival was launched online on Sunday, October 18, with events lined up until the 25th. Among the major activities are the Handurawan online photo contest, the Buwahan TikTok challenge, and the Agama Kita Paksoy competition for aspiring fashion designers. The Camiguin vlogging contest was also open to all residents of the province with the theme Camiguin, Discover More. Governor J.J. Romualdo said the activities will be viewable on the Lanzones Festival Facebook page. Meanwhile, Camiguin is expecting a yield of more than 100,000 boxes of 20 kilograms per box for this year's harvest. Take one more look at today's biggest stories. Returning OFWs now allowed to travel back to their provinces. Metro Manila Council raises the age-based restrictions to 18 years old up to 65 years old. 71% of Filipinos approve of the government's COVID-19 response. And let's take a look at Camiguin's TikTok and vlogs for their Lanzones Festival. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, check our webpage or check the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on TV on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I am Rom Dulfo. Good day and stay safe.